short notice, but here they are. So,
All right. And Jack, if you'd like to just introduce yourself and your firm, and then you may proceed with your presentation.
Excellent. So first and foremost, good afternoon. Thank you guys, thank you everyone for having me today. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. My name's Jack DeChico. I represent Ventura Real Estate, which is a private equity real estate firm. We have been investing in and around Lebanon County since 2004. I purchased my first property close to the site that we're going to be talking about in 2005, so I know the area pretty well. I love the area. I think I know what would be best to put on this particular site that we're talking about. And so maybe before I get into the actual materials, which I understand you guys have had maybe some time to review in advance, so
we can 10 minutes. I mean,
so
No, we've had them. Yes, is the answer.
Okay, so I want to be very fluid. We can, make it as informal as you guys want to make it, and focus on really what's important to you. That's why I'm here. I want to make sure that at a very minimum I answer all your questions. But let me take a step back for a little bit and tell you a little bit about me and my connections to the site that we're talking about. So I started life in the Bronx, spent the first 8 years of life there. As a child, both my parents Italian. We ended up living in Italy for some time and eventually settled in Lebanon County at the age of 14. I went to school, Lebanon High. I ended up graduating from Penn State, Harrisburg, with a degree in professional accounting. Ended up working for some of the largest accounting firms in the world. I started my professional life at PricewaterhouseCoopers. And after a few years, I realized that I wanted to go all in and move back to New York City. Spent 13 years there at Ernst & Young, professional accounting, but I specialized in real estate. That's all I did. All my clients were real estate. I've had a real passion for real estate ever since I bought my first house, which was a multifamily in New York City. I remember like it was yesterday, the gentleman who lived downstairs would knock on the door and pay me my rent in cash. And I was like, this is really cool business. And so, one thing led to another. I kind of slowly built up a portfolio. Anyway, I left Ernst & Young in 2012 and became the chief financial officer of a publicly traded real estate investment trust, or a REIT. We had a portfolio of roughly $2.2 billion at the time. All types of assets, from debt to equity, bricks and mortar, everything. Kind of a bank and an investment firm at the same time. Spent a few more years there. I left in 2016 to take another CFO job in Boston, all real estate related. We traded residential mortgage-backed securities, RMBS, agency debt, however you want to call it. In 2018, we sold the company, and I was in a very unique position. I was, for lack of a better term, I was financially free, and I could do what I wanted with my time. And I decided, I just absolutely love real estate. As opposed to working for somebody else, I'm going to dedicate all my time to doing my own thing, and then doing it with investors as well. So what Ventura does is I go out and look for opportunities in real estate. And if I can take the deal down on my own, I will. If I need investors, I know where to find the money. I just have to convince them to give me their money, that it's a great idea. And that's what I do. Back to Palmyra, first property, 2005. We own actually an entire block on Main Street that's 2 blocks from this site. So I think it's fair to say I know this site pretty well. This building, there's an image of the building on page 3 on the left as it stands today. It really does look that ugly. That's no Photoshop. You can't see it from here, but there are holes in the ceiling. I mean, the former owners completely neglected the place. And from talking to the borough shortly after we bought it, it became clear to us, I mean, this is their words, not ours. This property has been a thorn in our side for a very long time. They were joyful that someone had come along and actually was willing to do something with it. So I don't know if you know the history, but I think it's worth maybe.
It's
No.
not two of you.
Maybe.
Oh,
It's the wrong building.
oh, okay. Well, I think he was.
Yeah, I was. They had an office right on Main
Oh,
Street.
okay. I was
This
going
is
to say,
where they
I
produced
think
it.
these two guys had some, working experience there, but maybe not. Maybe close by.
Different.
Okay, go ahead.
So what happened is the person who used to own this building completely neglected it, and it ends up going to judicial sale, which is basically the point where no one's paid taxes on this thing for a long time, neglected beyond neglect, and the person who buys it at the auction effectively owns it outright, free and clear. There are no prior liens that are honored, nothing. And so going into this, we obviously did our research. We knew that the bank at the time, Fulton Bank, had $1 million mortgage on this building. So I was like, there's no way we're gonna end up buying this thing. I had my max number in my mind. I'm not paying any more than this. Because at this point, I couldn't even see, I didn't know what was on the inside. All I could see was the outside. And so, to my surprise, I was the highest bidder at the auction, and I was scratching my head on the way home. I'm thinking, why in God's name would a bank walk away from $1 million mortgage on this property? So that was sometime in December. We couldn't take possession of the building until January of 2021, the next calendar year, because my attorneys said, Jack, until the deed is transferred, you really shouldn't access the building. So I couldn't even access our building. In January, I'm legally allowed to break into my own building now. So, we hired somebody, we're in our building, and I will never forget that day for as long as I live. I was so deflated when I walked into that building and I saw the mess that I really started to question whether it was the right move. And then it was like this bright light went off in my mind. It was so clear why the bank would walk away from the property. It was an environmental nightmare. And if you understand the Fulton Banks of the world and everybody else, they're just trying to mitigate risk. No CFO, CEO, no risk team wants to deal with an environmental cleanup the way that it is. Plus the building was just, the only thing you can do with it realistically is demolish it, which is what we plan to do. And so it became clear to us that, the bank walked away for a very good reason. We have spent a lot of time and money trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with this thing? And so that's where our story really starts. We have a view about the market and what we think would be best there, but unfortunately that's not going to fly for a bank and investors. They want to see something that's a little more concrete. So what did we do? We engaged a national firm to come in and basically canvass the market and say, look, given the property, the site, and what could be built there, what do we think is the highest and best use? So they came back, and as you're probably well aware, there's a tremendous need for affordable housing in the county. My sources tell me there's a waiting list that's thousands of people deep. So we could build 1,000 units right now and probably fill them all in the county. But the study goes on to say you can do any kind of housing here, but it's interesting. There's only one luxury product in what we're going to call your market. They call the Palmyra market, and it happens to be in Hummelstown, and it's on the other side of the medical center. If somebody has some guts and could find the money, luxury apartments in this neighborhood would make a ton of sense, because if you build it right and you put the right amenities in, the neighborhood just lends itself to where these types of tenants would want to live. Plus, there's no other product in the Palmyra market. Now, I don't know if you heard the conversation that we had started. There's luxury apartments in Lebanon County. However, my standard, the way I'm defining luxury is a little different, maybe a lot different than what other people and how they're defining it and how they're using it. It's a very loosely defined term in the industry. People use it to try to get higher rents. But at the end of the day, a tenant's going to walk through eventually and say, look, this is really luxury or it's not. We're proposing to build a real luxury building here. Quality of the finishes, common area amenities. You're going to have a gym. You're going to have private offices and co-working space. So think of like I don't know if you've ever been to a WeWork. There's going to be a lounge and a shared kitchen. There'll be an on-site leasing office. There'll be a mail room. There'll be an Amazon style locker for e-commerce deliveries. The packages we get every day. Outside, we'll have some grills, all on a manicured landscape for the exclusive use of tenants. To me, that's luxury, and I think I can build it, and I can be very effective in competing with the only product in the market. The problem is construction costs today are so high relative to where they were just a few years ago that without the LERTA that we're seeking, it's really hard to justify the build, and banks have told us that. And so we also discovered after doing a lot of digging that this only other luxury product in the market, which is called the Verde, it's in Hummelstown, the Verde Apartments, they were granted a LERTA as an incentive to build, and when we dug even deeper, we found out they were granted no less than 6 years, 100%, and then at year 7 it just fell off. It was 100%. And so we said, wow, that's interesting. And so we discovered, look, it's pretty clear what happened here. Everybody wanted a luxury product. It was hard to justify without the incentive. Everybody worked together to get it done. That's basically what we're looking for here. The only difference here is instead of me finishing my construction in 2017, I'm going to finish it maybe in the next 18 months if all goes well and we get the support that we need. In today's environment, when we look at construction costs relative to where they were when, even just before COVID, so just 2 years ago, average is 30%. So using the average, it's going to cost us an extra between 5.4 and $6.3 million to build the same building. And the incremental incentive that we're seeking is $398,000 if I did the math correctly. And it's all in here, I'll point you to it. It's all, you can go back and look at all the details. We can go through it now as well. But here's the punchline.
Is that total or?
No, the total budget, this is outside of the cost of land. The total, what we call in the industry, hard and soft costs. So basically the total to get the building built from today forward, based on projections, it's anywhere between $18 and $21 million. So I'm saying if you use those numbers as the basis for what it's costing us extra, it's 30% of that. So 5.4 to 6.3 million more to build the same thing today, only because costs are up. It's that.
I'm just trying to figure out, you said 5.6 million, 5 to 6 million more, but what's the 398,000?
So if you turn to slide 8, I'll walk you through the mathematics. So.
Oh, that's the LERTA you're asking for.
So the LERTA that I'm asking for, what I do, I'm sorry, I really should, I'd like to know how you'd like to be addressed. Is it Commissioner Litz? I want to be as respectful as possible because I know that some people are very specific about it, and I don't want to take any chances.
It doesn't matter. I'm not that fussy.
I'll go with Commissioner Litz.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
I won't. So Commissioner Litz, on the right-hand side, what I did is I show you column 1 is the year of the tax abatement. Column 2 is the tax abatement according to the ordinance that was approved by the Borough of Palmyra. So you can see it's 100% for the first 7 years, and then it scales down in 25% increments until basically at year 11 it's 0. The column right next to it is the Verde. It's the property that I'm referencing. And so they got 6 years, 100%. The column right next to the Verde is showing you what we're seeking above and beyond what the Verde has, and then I try to calculate in the far right column, what does that actually mean in dollars? How much extra benefit are we getting? So my math says we're gonna get an extra $398,000 in benefits, but because of today and the environment that we're operating in, It's going to cost us, on average, $5.9 million more to build that same product.
Well, I'm going to, and this is just me, this is not these guys. This
Sure.
is my observation of what I'm looking at here.
Mhm.
Again, I just got back in town from a conference, so I only had 10 minutes to look at it in advance.
Sure.
But we have been turning down LERTAs because our employers don't have the manpower, and we want to support our local employers that are existing. But in this case, you have a contaminated property that you want to redo. So I am seriously considering supporting this. But I have a couple of questions, and one is, traditionally we do one or both of two things. One is we've, I think, cut them down to 5-year LERTAs as opposed to 10. And the other is, we don't do 100% all the way through. We'll go like 100%, 90, 80, 70, 60, like that, and reduce it. That is, I mean, before when we were doing LERTAs, that's my recollection. And if I'm wrong, I'd like the staff, Dan, am I correct or am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're right.
So those are my observations on what I'm seeing on this chart. In other words, I'm not against personally awarding you something because of the circumstances, but I'd like to see an adjustment of the chart.
May I just make
Go ahead.
some clarity on the numbers here, just to be clear? That estimated benefit column is across all 3 jurisdictions. That's school district, county, and borough combined.
That is correct. That's
Okay.
total. Yep. Total tax.
And who have you got? You got commitment from the borough?
The borough has already committed through ordinance number 817. They've committed to this tax
This
abatement
deal,
schedule.
Yep. And what's the, where are you with the school district?
We are meeting tomorrow evening, formal meeting.
So you don't have their approval yet?
No.
Aha. Well, okay.
Have you met with them like this? Have you presented or have you submitted?
So I met with Dr. Bernie Kepler and Mike Frentz, who are, I think Dr. Kepler is the president. I haven't met with any of the board members. The message that they conveyed to me when I had requested to meet with the board more formally, or even for an informal meeting, was there's nothing to vote on. There's nothing to talk about. There's no LERTA in place. There's nothing to vote on. Go convince the borough first, and if they're on board, then we'll talk about it. So that's exactly what we did. We went, we spoke to the borough. We have their commitment and their support, and I'd like to hear any additional questions on this specific point before I address Commissioner Litz.
My one question is, the tax revenue on that property now is $500?
The county's piece is
Yes.
$500, and it will go to, if my numbers are right, just using an average of what Carl and I think it could be assessed at when it's done. The county's piece is going to go from 500 to 24,000.
Yeah, so see, to me, I'm on board with the boroughs. You're taking a property that's neglected, it's an eyesore, it's a risk for the neighborhood. So to give a little bit differently than we've given, because of the circumstances of the COVID, and we all know the inflation rate has impacted everything, especially in your trade that you're trying to accomplish here. So I can buy the package that the borough has.
I appreciate that, and I think what I'd like to comment on your observation, because I think it's a fair observation. It really is. We're not looking for favorable treatment. To be frank, if luxury doesn't get built on this project, we have offers on the table to build affordable, and I don't use that in any other way than just to inform folks. These are the options on the table. All the work that we did, all the cleanup, we didn't say we're only going to do this if we get alerted. We already took care of all that. If anything, we've already demonstrated our commitment to cleaning this place up. It's done. The building is clean. It's ready to be demolished.
Well,
Just let him finish his
okay.
statement.
So the reason why the LERTA looks so different than what, let's call it the traditional schedule looks like, is because we have to be realistic about what we're trying to accomplish. You're trying to bring something to the market that does not exist. We happen to have found something that does exist, and we discovered why it exists. They got 6 years, 100%. That was in 2017, before COVID. Between 2017 and 2019, inflation's going up at about 2%. Construction costs are about the same rate. Once COVID's done, construction costs go up 30%, and they're not expected to dissipate anytime soon. And that comes from my general contractors. And so here's how I know that they're not BSing, for lack of a better acronym. They're telling me, Jack, there's a significant backlog. People have delayed projects because of construction costs. So don't think that by waiting 6 months or a year, you're gonna get a major break on costs. I don't think so. And so, okay, how do I corroborate that? How do I determine whether they're just trying to, talk their book, or whether it's really true? Here's how I did it. Before you build a building, what do you gotta do? You gotta design it. So I talked to all the design firms. Hey, civil engineers. Hey, MEP engineers. Hey, architects. What's going on? If I want to build this building today, can you guys hit the ground running tomorrow and design it? I'm sorry, Jack, we can't. Why? We have a backlog. If there's a backlog in design, there's definitely a backlog in construction, which is, for me, all the proof I need to know that construction costs are not going to come down anytime soon. And I'd like to build it, in the next couple of years. It'd be nice to do that. And so you have the competition built it, and they're still by the way, they're still operating. They're still operating with 100% tax abatement. So let's just say I build this building, and times get tough. We either have a recession, or we're competing for tenants. They're still operating with 100% tax abatement, and I'm not. Guess who's going to win that war? It's not going to be me. They have pricing power because they don't have to pay taxes. And so I'm really asking in a very long-winded way. Let's just level the playing field. I want to bring this very nice product to this neighborhood, something no one else has been able to do. Help me get there, please, because without it, I'm not going to convince a bank and an investor to do it. That's all.
My turn. I didn't want to jump ahead of
No,
you.
he was trying to respond to you.
Okay, all right. Jack,
Yes.
I told you already I like this project, all right? But remember when you started, you said your attorneys told you don't touch the property until, everything's settled, we don't want, any problems. So you listened. And so you like to follow the law. And again, I have to look at my staff and say, is there not something on the books that says we have to approve a LERTA before construction starts?
I don't know.
Then that's a different program. I remember Bill Calavani wanted, I thought it was a LERTA, maybe it was another program, but it had to be approved before he started construction. I don't know what kind of program it was, and that's why I'm looking for clarity on that.
That might have been a KOZ.
A cause.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't proceeding and that,
It wouldn't be a KOZ because that's a defined period of time that any business can start up in and out of the KOZ.
So the practical issue with that is, if you don't have one of these, like I have in my hand from the borough, no bank is going to even talk to you. Your investors are going to tell you to go fly a kite. Come to me when you have something in hand. So in terms of sequence of events, this is the horse. The approval is the horse. We
Okay.
can't put the cart before the horse.
so did you have a phase 1, 2, what phase environmental assessments did you have done?
There's a phase 1 conducted on the property.
Pardon?
There's a phase 1 that's conducted on the property, and we already have estimates from a contractor to do the abatement. So all of the contents, all the chemicals that were inside that you see, we can go through the slides in the back, all of that is finished. What's left is really attached to the structure. So think about the water lines inside the building are covered with material that contains asbestos or asbestos containing material. They call it ACM. All of that's going to come down as part of demolition. You wouldn't touch it until you demolish it because just how it works.
And are you applying for grant money, or have you received grant money from a super fund or some other grant through DEP or anything like that to clean this up?
No. Most of the cleanup's been done.
Okay, and you received no,
Zero. We financed it all off of our balance sheet, cash. We
okay.
have zero debt to anybody.
And I don't recall what you said you paid for the property.
We paid $110,000 at the judicial sale. Keep in mind, Commissioner Litz, if you're trying to back into kind of where I am, put your business hat on for a second. The bank who knew this property very well, they knew it very well. They walked away from $1 million
Oh, I
mortgage.
heard that.
So if you're trying to back into, I don't know what you're trying to accomplish
I'm
mathematically.
just
but
trying to
that's-
get the facts
Yep.
so I can make an informed decision.
Absolutely.
So then, I don't understand the comment on the $500, and you're showing here an extra $298,000 plus inflation brings it to basically $398,000 benefit.
So the question was, what's the current county taxes based on the current assessment? It's $500 is what we're paying in county taxes right now. After the building
But this LERTA would go more than $500.
I was trying to, my question was, what is the county deriving now on that property? And knowing that if you do what you're gonna do, what's that number? And it goes from 500 to 21,000 or whatever.
I have 23,529, but let's call it 24,000.
For me to give up a couple of years to get that ongoing in the future makes sense to me.
Well, and also, you will be paying on the land,
Yes.
the updated land value that will go into effect, so.
Had you looked at what that would come to, Dan?
We did, but we kinda got in this late. Carl was coming back, he did not have time.
Understood,
Correct.
to calculate it.
But do you have that information from?
I have the total. I have
Just the total?
the total assessed value per unit at 75,000. And then the county taxes, like I said, the county taxes go from 500 today to 20, let's call it roughly 24,000.
Mike?
I got a couple of comments. Is that I'm generally a big fan of relatively new to this role, but served on the school board for 28 years and had the opportunity to look at KOZ projects and LERTAs, and generally a fan if there's benefit, if I can see the benefit. This shows I've seen clear benefit here. We need housing, all forms of housing, moderate, low, high end, and you're taking a site that in the borough's eyes is an eyesore and have already cleaned it up. I commend you for that, and I want to be supportive of what you're doing.
Thank you. You know, it feels great to hear that. At the borough council meeting, there were borough council members that actually almost brought me to tears when they said, you know, we're absolutely delighted that you've chosen this site and Palmyra to focus your time and effort because we don't have anything like it. And so it's nice to be welcomed and to have the support, because honestly, without it, you couldn't do it. And the Verde, look, the Verde did the same thing. They happened to find a school district, a borough, and a county that all shared the same vision and saw what it could be. And so I appreciate and I understand the fact that the economic benefit is definitely greater than what is traditional, and that's why we've dedicated 4 pages, the most of anything, in the presentation, and we try to showcase why we think that every penny of it is justified, and it, simply put, the benefit to the community over the long term is justified by the cost, I believe.
Is this the same property our housing authority looked at one time to redo?
Yes.
I thought I remembered that.
Yes, Brian Hoffman and I have
Yes.
had many conversations, and Brian would like to buy it.
I was gonna say, wasn't Brian inside the
Not
building?
anymore. Ryan just retired.
He's actually still engaged. The problem is, you know what? People like him, they have too much trapped between their ears. You can't let him go. So he's still a consultant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same exact property.
I thought I remembered it. It
Yeah.
looked like the same one.
So what Brian wanted to do back then was, our building's going to be 3 floors, roughly 30 units per floor. It's actually, most of the units are on the 2nd and 3rd floor because the 1st floor is a lot of the common area amenities. They wanted to do just 1 floor, but senior housing is all they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And the reason why they did that is because they didn't own any of the adjacent lots like we do.
Oh.
And so they had no place to park. And so the parking is a major limitation when you're doing multi-story construction. If you don't
Sure.
have parking, it's going to be a failure because people need to park.
Well, I guess my only request is that our staff have time. In other words, I can commit to doing something, but I'd like our staff to look at this and give us the numbers exact so I know what I'm voting on till we vote on this.
Sure.
And also to verify that it's okay to move ahead if he already started the project.
He didn't start the project.
He
We
said
did
he had
start-
construction in there.
We have estimates.
Just have demolition before you guys.
Yeah, I mean, the building still stands as it is, and it's
Yeah.
just been cleaned out.
Okay, I thought I heard you say you're construction guys.
Yeah, estimates.
The firms that are giving us estimates to tell us how much it's going to cost to build it.
Okay, all right. Just so you didn't start construction, because I'm pretty sure that's part of the law somehow.
No, we couldn't. Without financing, we couldn't. This is going to cost, let's call it
Apparently,
$19 million to build.
you started abatement of some of the environmental issues.
That's everything except the structure is gone.
The only thing that's been done on the site really is phase. You haven't even fixed the roof.
There's nothing to fix. It's going to be demolished.
Yeah, that's why.
Okay.
Can I just go over a couple of numbers to make sure I understand? You probably already ran these numbers, but
Yeah, of
because
course.
you have the last
Tell me
3
what
years.
page you're on.
I'm on 3.
Okay.
I'm sorry. No, 8. The one you were on. 8.
Yep.
3 was the building. So based on the knowledge that 24,000 would be the final at this point in time. I mean, these are just numbers that you and Carl talked about. The 24,000 would be the county tax value. Is that the land? Or are you talking about the improvement, the building improvement? Just that you've just roughed out. On an assumed assessment.
Yeah, I think you extrapolated those final numbers by using 75,000 roughly per unit times the number of units proposed, so that's where he got that
Okay.
24,000 from. But we didn't talk tax dollars.
Okay, so do you have any idea of what the number may be, or is it too early to run a number? I mean, I did some quick calculations on the 24,000, thinking that was gonna be the county tax.
And that may well be.
Okay. But you don't have any numbers yet. Yours you backed into some.
I took the mill rates.
Yeah.
Current assessment, A times B, so 92 times 75,000, and then it's just mathematics. What the county. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so,
I actually commend Commissioner Litz for wanting to do all the extra research that you think is necessary to come to an informed decision. I respect that, so take all the time
Thank
that you need to
you.
do that.
Thank you.
if I'm using 24,000, for example, that's the only
Yeah,
number
that's
I have
fine.
to work with.
It's fine.
Then the overall, by this schedule of abatement, the overall abatement over the 10 years would be about $180,000. I'm looking at, abating 24, according to this, 24 for 7 years, and then 8, 9, 10 would be descending.
If that's what the math is, yep.
So, okay, so you don't have a number like that at this
No,
point.
no,
but that-
so I
and
didn't-
that's in today's dollars. I mean, this would go out to, 2033 or whatever. Okay.
So my apologies, I probably should have broken it out. I took the total. In this schedule, it's simply the total, all 3 taxing authorities, so school, county, and borough. And then I know what the current years would be to answer Commissioner Phillips' question. I know what I'm paying now. It's roughly $500 for the county, and it would go, my math, to about $24,000.
And the borough, this is the schedule the borough, this is the scheduled abatement that the borough approved, is you're proposing the same to the district as to all three entities.
All three, yeah. I think the way that it has to work is everybody gets on the same page, or else it doesn't work.
It makes a nightmare for these guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it can work, but it's calculation. I think we do have a couple of those that are mixed up, don't we? There's something we're calculating differently. The schedule of abatement is
Correct.
different between some jurisdictions, but we don't have too many of those.
So, this is your time. We can go through, I believe I touched on the key points that substantiate the nature of our request. I believe I've touched upon why we are seeking more than what is considered traditional. What other questions can I answer? Is there anything else that's on your minds about the site, about what we're proposing to build?
Well, I think it would be helpful for the public, because I see you have all these pages marked exclusive, privileged, confidential. But if we have to answer to the public because we're cutting taxes on this property, I think it's good for them to know how many housing units, because as Commissioner Kuhn said, this is huge. We need housing. Can you tell us how many housing units are being proposed so that we know it's public?
Of course. So I have the proposed unit mix for you on slide 10. And you can see on the left-hand column unit type, so studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, number of units, there's a total of 92. And if you're wondering, Jack, how did you get these? How did you get this unit mix? Easy. The market study said, if you're gonna build this kind of product, this is what these people want. And they also told us, look, 3 bedrooms, not gonna work in this type of environment. A family that wants a 3 bedroom is not gonna wanna stay at your building for the same amount of money. They have better options, basically. So we don't recommend 3 bedroom units. They told us that studios and 1 bedrooms are gonna be the ones that are gonna be in the most demand. And we actually see all of this in what the Verde has, the competition. They're mostly 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. They also told us that of the 2 bedrooms, so we buy data to try to make good decisions, just like everybody is trying to do, make good decisions. Data is like the new oil, or yeah, data is the new oil. The data says folks that are likely to rent from you and want a 2 bedroom, probably gonna use that 2nd bedroom as a home office. So that's fantastic to know, because you only get to build a building once. And you damn well better build it right and build what people want, or else you're gonna have a vacant building and everybody's gonna be upset. And so the unit mix came from an independent market study, the unit sizes, and also down to the baths. So how many bathrooms should we have? Do we have a half bath in a 1 unit or not? This all came from an independent market study. And so we have every intention of building, if we get the approvals that we're seeking, it will be 92 units. Most of them on the 2nd and 3rd floors, because again, we're gonna have, on the 1st floor, you're gonna have a leasing office, your gym, your lounge, your kitchen, your private offices, co-working space, all of that, mailroom, and then the housing, most of it on the 2nd and 3rd floor. And I'm happy sharing that information publicly. These meetings for me are,
Well, you are sharing it publicly right now.
Yes.
well,
So I don't know. You know,
so but the content, so this presentation here,
I mean, the public is gonna understand the scale of the project and what you're doing there, so.
some of the information,
That's,
you get more information than what you might maybe share otherwise, but I think we have enough in here to give you a basis for an informed decision, unless you need information that the tax assessment office is going to share.
Okay.
Anything else for Jack?
I got my questions answered. I sometimes, ask a lot of questions, but that's how I try and make informed decisions. So thank you for your patience and getting me up to snuff on what you're looking at. And I heard my other colleagues say they'd like to support you too. I just need time for the staff to look at it and make a recommendation.
I appreciate also the, your history with the borough. That's another added value to me. And the rest of the whole thing was that you went to Lebanon School District, so that's.
There you go.
You had us right there, so that.
What
Anyway,
year did you graduate from Lebanon High School?
So I actually didn't end up graduating. I left high school to work for my father in a restaurant in 10th grade. And I quickly realized, well, not quickly, it took me about 18 months to realize I'm not cut out for the restaurant business. I really need something that's more mentally stimulating. I didn't realize till I was in college that I had a passion for knowledge and studying and so on. And so thank God that I went to, on Cumberland Street, you know where the GED building is?
Mm-hmm.
I got my GED, and I walked into Penn State and I said, I want to go to college. They said, well, you didn't finish school, you're gonna have to take an entrance exam, kind of figure out where you need to start, and the rest is history.
Good for you.
wow,
I'm just saying.
Great story.
support
Yeah, that's
this-
great.
I support this concept, but I would encourage you too to let us know. There are plenty of other properties in Lebanon County. I can think of in the city of Lebanon or Jonestown, Fredericksburg, Myerstown that would lend itself similarly to projects. So let us know if we can.
We're always looking for the next deal. When this is finished being built, actually before it is, I'm going to be looking for the next deal. So to the extent that there are any opportunities that you see for us to work together, that's what I do. I identify opportunities and then I make it happen.
I think this market, especially Lebanon County, is poised for this kind of growth.
I believe it.
anything else from the assessment office?
Did you put a bid in on the old Catholic school?
I did not.
Okay.
Isn't somebody else already locked up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now stay out of Lancaster.
Locked up is a good term.
Yes.
Jack, what is your business model? Is there apartments for lease or condo units or?
All lease. We don't have anything for sale. And we're long-term holders. I've sold very little over the course of my 19 years investing. A lot of people, buy and flip. That's their model. It hasn't been our model. But listen, I mean, if the market gives you a great opportunity, I think as an investor, you have to consider all your options. But historically, we have been actually buy, renovate, and lease.
All right.
Good luck to you.
Nothing
Thank you.
further. We appreciate your presentation and wish you luck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your
Jack,
time.
nice to meet you.
Thank you. Likewise.